Because on one hand, it was really nice of them to offer dinner, and then she decided to offer me a place to stay at her house overnight. And then I'm always wondering, though, well, I had to get online on the computer, and then I had to do it through her connection at her house. So half the time when people are being hospitable to me, I don't know if they're just trying to get me close so that they can try to hack into my computer and get information. I just don't always know. And this was in Foggy Bottom, was the name of the area. It was next to her college, I believe, at the time, or where she was doing work or an internship. And I stayed one night, and then I was going to go, I thought I was going to go back to get back on the train or the bus and go on to Georgia. And even if I had been a little bit behind, I think I could have still done that, made a change in my ticket a little bit. But I decided, for whatever reason, to stay in DC. And that was a really weird choice to make, in a sense, because I thought, well, I might be able to talk to more people who might know what's going on with me and my son. It's next to the White House. There are a lot of politicians. Maybe somebody could help me. It wasn't too far away from the area that had the different military hospitals. It wasn't Bethesda that had the hospital, I don't believe, that did the analysis, but it was a hospital in, possibly it was in Maryland, but I don't believe it was Bethesda. And I kept thinking, well, if I just try to make it work. I had no idea. I only had a night to stay there, and then I was on my own. And the first thing I did was, I guess, I went to the Naval Hospital. So maybe I did think that, maybe that was the hospital that I had looked up that might have had been able to help. So I took a bus out to, from what I remember, I took a bus out to Bethesda, Maryland from Washington, D.C. And I ended up at the President's Hospital, where all the presidents get flown if they ever have any injuries. I think most of the time. So it was the Bethesda Naval Hospital. And then I basically just showed up. I tried to find a women's shelter, and they were all saying that if I didn't have a child with me, that they couldn't give me a place in a shelter. That's what they said in Bethesda, Maryland, when I went to one. Because I think that was initially why I first, actually it was not that hospital that did the diagnostics that I was looking at specifically, but I believe I had found there was a women's shelter in that area, so I went out there for that. And that's the first place I went to, was that women's shelter. And then after that, after they said they couldn't help me with that, I just was walking, and I ran into the Bethesda Hospital. And I think I decided I might go there and see if I could make some, connections or something, or find out where to go. So then I met the guard at the front, and different people, and there were different people. They were very nice, and someone offered me a place to stay for a little while. It was for about a whole month, and never did one single thing to me. I drank at that house a little bit, not a lot, but I had a couple drinks, and he drank, and he never tried anything while I was drunk. It's not like he maybe sat on the other side of the couch, but he didn't try touching me or try to do anything after I had been drinking. And then later he was saying, you're not going to find a lot of people that are as nice as I am. And he said, this is a really mean area, and there are a lot of mean people. And he said, most people will not do what I've just done, or or be as nice. He said that, he said they're always going to expect something from you. He said, if you stay with any man, he said, he will always expect something from you. And I said, well, what if I'm just staying with him for a short time? They shouldn't expect anything. If someone offers me a place to stay for a short time because I'm new to the area and I have this tragic situation, I don't know why they would. So it's a little bit naive. But that's what I thought. Well, just because they're a man doesn't mean that they can't be a neutral friend type of a thing. And most women, like I said, that one woman was the only one from Foggy Bottom who ever offered me a place to stay. That was a woman over there. And so basically, but while I was there, I did the most that I could. I tried to work as quickly as I could, and I immediately looked for work. And found I was still trying to keep up with my email and everything. I had to put my court stuff on a little bit of a slight hold, but just until I figured out where I was, but it was only like a week. And I was really just trying to find out where I could get work. And I ended up getting a job at a coffee house. I don't think that I'd gone to any embassy first or anything before I got that job. I just went door to door with a resume. I mean, I did go to an embassy at one point, but I believe that was later. And the first job that I had, this one woman was pregnant and on leave or whatever, so I was able to work there. Some of the people who came in were really rude to me and really wanted me to screw up with what I was doing. As the East Coast, they wanted everything very fast and they wanted you to remember everything. And I had just come out of a situation where I had been tortured. I mean, my brain was, I can think fast and work fast, but my brain was not at probably full optimum speed at that time. And I still did a good job. But again, I was a traumatized mother who had her son kidnapped after both she and her son were tortured, who had all these horrible things happen, and then I was still out there trying to work and be cheerful and remember everything, get everybody's drinks right, and get them to them on time. And there were a lot of people with different accents from different countries. I noticed some people seemed to really hate me. Some people are just brusque to everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. But I was able to pick out and identify that there were a few individuals who I didn't know at all, who were they seemed to be upset that I had a job there at all. Like they didn't want me to have any work. And I think they were afraid. There were others who just seemed to hate me. I did my best. And then while I was still working there, I looked for a second job because I didn't want to be in a position of, well, if this one doesn't work out, I needed more money too. I needed as much money as I could get. So I was sort of looking for another job, and I just happened to be sitting at a different coffee shop doing some emailing and blogging a little bit. And then I ran into someone who said, you can work, come with me, to talk to him for a few minutes, and said, why don't you come with me and I'll introduce you to the people I work for if you need a job. And I said, yes, I do. And I didn't tell him that I worked at this other place, but I just told his workplace that the hours I could work, which didn't conflict with the hours at the other place. And it also kind of threw a few people, not very many, but it threw a couple people off my track. So if somebody tried to sabotage one job, and I wasn't telling them I had two different jobs, they weren't really thinking that I had two jobs, and they weren't sabotaging both. I'm sure a lot of people did know that I had two jobs, but not everyone did, and I had already noticed by that time an effort by some to definitely get in and try to sabotage my work. So that was actually why That was a big reason why I took 2 jobs, and I didn't tell anybody about both of them. And then the first place, at the coffee place, he said that the other woman was coming back and he didn't need me anymore, and I was kind of upset because I'd still wanted to work there and try to make as much as I could. But I had that other position still. And then I was working at that pub. The other place was the Post Pub. And when I say that I met people with different accents at that other coffee shop, it was mainly English accent, British accents, and Australian, and English, just regular American people. I think there were a few other different nationalities too. There were a few here and there, and a lot of embassies in the area, but most of the people who went to that one must have had an English embassy nearby somewhere, or an Australian one or something, because I ran into a lot of people who were from Australia or Britain, or had those accents. And some of those people were the ones who seemed to be really mean to me. There were a couple that were American accents, and then I do remember it stood out to me that a few people from these other countries were acting hostile towards me, and I didn't know why. And then at the Post Pub, it was right across the street from the Washington Post, a publication, and really close to the White House, which I thought was sort of fun. I didn't realize that you can be very close to the White House, and there's still a couple pockets that very late at night are not very safe to be in, which is really a weird thing about DC, because you can be in an area that's so close to the White House or seems very safe, and then just go around the wrong corner at nighttime and you might get mugged or something weird happens. Even shootings, full-on shootings. And I never saw so many policemen as I saw in Washington, D.C. I mean, like a lot of police cars back and forth. But I didn't feel that they were all stalking me the way that I knew that they were in Washington and Oregon. I mean, maybe a few knew who I was, but it wasn't like I was always being followed by them. Or I didn't feel they weren't mocking me or laughing at me all the time. And it was just because maybe some of them just didn't know who I was, or they just had other things to do. So that was actually nice to have a break from that, because I had felt very stressed out by the way I was treated by police in Washington and Oregon. And basically, I, at that time, was trying to put things together as soon as I had, I think it was as soon as I had a job, or as soon as I had a place to stay with the one person from the Bethesda Hospital. That's when I contacted the state of Washington to let them know. I mean, at some point I did on my cell phone, and let them know where I was, because at first I wanted to get to where I was without them getting ahead of me, but then I wanted to let them know where I was because I was keeping up with the whole process.